All right. So do you guys see like a
I
break?
can,
Go ahead,
yeah,
Anders.
I can hear you. It said like room 1, and so I joined room 1. It said.
All right, so if I move to that, is Justin on? Justin, can you hear me?
I don't see him. It doesn't show him as on mine.
Let me send him a text. Okay, so I think you and I are in group breakout room 1. What do you think? What do you think in strategy wise?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to strategize it. It's hard to see where they're going to be coming from. But I think the biggest thing to lean heavily on is the relationship itself between the workers / union / town and the company.
Okay.
Because there's like some loyalty there. So to play on that, because there are people who care and like feel connected to this company, so they might be willing to concede a little more than they would to another company if they're working for another one. And then also I think a big selling point is just like really emphasizing, hey, if we don't like rein in, wages and stuff, then there's not going to be like a company to even be a part of. Like we're going to go out of like it's like we're going out of business. We're not trying to cut expenses and cut wages and cut all these benefits and things because we're trying to make a buck. It's because like we can't compete.
Right. Let me go look at. I forget the numbers. There was like 5 numbers that were given for like the average of the industry. You know what I mean? Did you see that?
Yeah, the wages one.
Yeah, like at the very bottom of the.
Okay, James.
Sorry, Justin just texted us. Shoot, this is so confusing. All right. There's just so many assignments, like little assignments that he has that I can never remember which one has what I want. Like it's like instructions and then quiz and then there's all these different sections. And
yeah, and then each like thing has like an instructions page for it.
Yeah, it's like
and so you can't even go off your like iLearn to-do list because it's like doesn't fit all on one page.
All right, let's look at this. I think something that needs to be talked about. Where did I see that? I know that there's like 5 numbers that it talked about.
Is it what numbers are they?
They're like, so in the. Hold on. So in the contract, it said that like we can't go any lower than like.
Hey, Hayden.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so I don't know. I just came back to see if it was working for you guys.
It's recording for us.
It doesn't. You don't need to record for me, I guess, since I'm by myself.
Yeah, I would just like explain like I was the only one, so I'm not gonna record myself. Like, what am I gonna record silence? You know what I mean?
Okay. Do you want me to just go back to the breakout room while we're doing this part? Then are you guys starting?
Yeah, we're talking strategy right now so that we can rip you off. So leave is what I'm saying.
So, like, what are the?
Just kidding. What?
Did you understand the direction though of what to do? Like, the directions were kind of like vague, I guess. Like it
So
says to read the
just think.
initial.
I guess the biggest thing is think about a number of hourly wage that you think is fair, and we'll think about one for us, and then we'll negotiate it once Anders and I have like an actual number. Then we'll reconvene
Okay.
and talk about like what's fair and what's not. I think.
Okay.
And then
All
after that, we're gonna write it up into a Well, you and I will write it up into a contract, I guess. So.
Okay. All right. I'll just go back to my break room and discuss with myself.
Grab a snack, Justin.
Good luck.
All right, so I have it right here. So it says it's like the top competing firm pays $9 an hour. The next is $8. The other one is $8.25, and then like $8.75 and $6 to $7.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now too.
So on my quiz, I said like $9.25 or something like that, because it's still well above the average of the top three, but it's not like ripping them off completely.
Right. So I think one thing we could do is, especially if we're going to play on the whatever that clause was, where you take the top three and then do the average of the top three, to start with that, because ideally that's what we would want, and then from there we could bump it up to like it'll most likely bump up from there. Like we would most likely still be paying more after kind of coming to that compromise.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So where do you want to start? Like as far as number wise?
So that would be $8.58 an hour would be the average of those top three.
Yeah, okay. Did you just do that? All right.
Yeah, so we could start there, or at least somewhere near there, like $8.75 or something like that.
I say let's start at $8.75, and
Okay.
then if he moves us up, then we can go up a little bit. I don't think we really need to go over $9.50 in my mind.
Yeah.
Because legally we have the right to pay them $8.58. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think a big thing we'll need to prep for too, I think one of their key argument points is going to be, hey, we're still profitable. Like we're still growing and making money. So like, yeah, the industry standard is lower, but like this company's doing better than the average company.
Right.
And I think they brought that up in the reading and pointed out that like the effects like aren't going to be immediate. Like if we keep paying like this, it's going to start slipping, and then it'll be something we can't recover from.
Right.
So maybe negotiating something in there too, like, hey, like, I don't know, maybe directly tying the hourly wage to company profitability, or like lowering the wages, but being willing to give more in like profit sharing. You know, like, hey, we're going to lower the wage so we can all plan for it and prep, and like this is worst case scenario wage in case we're going downhill. But like, yeah, if we are more profitable than these other companies and keep growing, then we'll just do profit sharing to like make up for decreased hourly wages.
What do you mean profit sharing?
So like if we are making a big profit, if we're, you know, doing well and the company's growing, then however much the company grows by, some of it goes into like retained earnings and stays obviously for growth and all that, for what we need to grow and develop and stay relevant in the industry. And anything on top of that like maybe back in the day would have gone towards hourly wages will just be paid out as bonuses.
Okay.
Kind of thing. So like if we basically kind of like saying we're going to do this base hourly wage, and if we can afford it, we'll pay more. But if the company, like we're anticipating because of the industry and how things are going, isn't successful, then we won't pay more. But we're going to lower the wage so that people can like plan for that, you know?
Right.
understand what their at least their base income is, and if the extra comes, it comes. So they're not planning on making more money than they actually are.
Right. Okay, I like that. I think it's also like a 52-week notification of layoff. I think that's huge, seeing that like everyone has a job for at least a year. You know what I mean? Like I think that's another point that.
Yeah, I agree. That should definitely be brought down, because then it's like, well, if we start going down that slope of no recovery, like a lot of these other companies are, then that doesn't give us enough time to be flexible and do layoffs if we need to do layoffs.
Right.
I just feel like we're not like I feel like we need to emphasize we're not trying to like pocket the money ourselves. We're not trying to not pay people or lay people. Like, we're not trying to do that. We just need the flexibility to do so.
Well, and honestly, in the long run,
like we might need to.
In the long run, it's to keep them to have it's so that they can maintain jobs. I mean, they might have to take a hit, bite the bullet in their wages for a little bit, but ultimately we're doing it so that we can save their jobs, keep the company afloat, and if the industry can take a turn and we can take a turn, then we can negotiate wages.
Yeah, I think that's the emphasis, is like, hey, we got to be looking long term. Like, we can like maybe even negotiating like, hey, every couple of years. I don't know. I mean, the wage thing is still in there, of like, if industry averages do go up, then there's still the stipulation where you take the highest of the three and do the like, they've still got a vehicle to increase their wages in the future.
That's
if the industry takes that turn, so like, they're protected. They just can't expect to be paid as much as they used to in this industry if the industry's turning down. There's no way around it. No company is going to be able to pay that. It's just not in the.
So do you think it would be good to talk about maybe like an annual negotiation meeting where we meet every like year and just go?
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Okay. All right.
And that's kind of like what, at least I didn't really fully understand it, but they had mentioned before that they had a living contract or working contract or whatever. Do you remember that? It was in the first reading.
Yeah, I didn't really know what work contract, like I didn't really know what that meant.
It sounded like it was like ongoing. Like they just kind of had some principles they lived by, and things were like actively negotiated, kind of like real time, like a weekly or monthly type thing.
Well, like whenever an issue came up, they did.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that might be effective here as well.
Okay. All right. Well, do you have any other ideas that we want to bring to the table?
I don't know. I think that's the gist of it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to close the rooms and we can reconvene with him. Ready?
Cool.
So it says it'll close in 50 seconds, so I could just text him and say leave. Can you still hear me, Anders?
Can you hear me?
Is that you, Justin?
No, it's Anders.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Are you on baby duty, Anders?
Yep. He was so close to being asleep too, and then just is now wide awake.
Just give him some Benadryl, man. I'm no dad, but I keep begging my wife, and she says no. I wonder why. She's gonna say that I'm gonna drug our kids. All right, Justin, you back?
What's that?
Looks like he's in.
I'm back.
Sweet. All right, Justin. So we want to start by saying that we are here to help you. And we ultimately want to do anything that's going to benefit the employees and their families. We want to start by talking about the Me Too clause, which states that we have the right to move our wages according to the top three in the industry. And that average is about $8.58. So we're willing to offer our employees $8.75.
Well, the Me Too clause is meant to raise wages. It's not meant to lower wages. It's not a clause to lower the wages. Because if it was, we would have put restrictive language in the union contract. It's not there to do that. So I think you're misunderstanding the Me Too clause.
I think the key
Does that make
point of the
sense?
clause, yeah, I think really the key point of it is it's not really to make them go up or to make them go down. It's to keep them consistent with what the industry allows. It's not even saying we're taking, an industry average. We're taking an average of the top competitors, the top payers in the industry. So it's really like not a way to really bump them up or bump them down. It's really just to make sure that the company stays where we're paying more than average. It's already protecting wages to be more than average, but it's got to be used at this point because of where the industry's at and how things have slowed down, that keeping wages high is just not is not viable long term.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at my documents, and it says a change in wages, not necessarily a raise or a raise, but it just says a change in wages.
It's to keep it with the industry average, and we have that in there to help us, to make sure we're not lower than the industry average, that we're keeping up with it. I think we're at a good rate right now, 1069. It is above the industry average. Yeah, I don't think the Me Too clause was meant for that, to lower it. Otherwise, we would have changed it. I wouldn't put that in the contract. We wouldn't have done that unless if we thought you could just use that as a negotiation tactic to lower our wages. We would have been more clear on that. So I don't think you're understanding it. And I think, as another point, that the reason why this company is doing so well is because their employees, they have a history of treating the employees well, and we are working hard. We're loyal to the company, and I think we have a decent wage, and that's helping the company grow. Other companies are going bankrupt and they're not doing well, and part of that's because they're lowering their wages, they're not treating their employees well. And so I think that we should at least, at the least, keep the wage the same. I think we deserve a raise, and that would definitely be beneficial to the company, because the strength of the company is the workers. So I think you want to keep us happy. Don't you guys think?
Well, I agree that keeping the employees happy is one of our priorities, and you bring up good points suggesting that happy employees creates an efficient and productive company, which is shown to be true. But at the same time, when it comes down to it, we're in an industry that's, according to our competitors, and otherwise, it's a failing industry. And so
we're beating all of our competitors, and then production is going up and profits are going up. So I don't think there's a reason to lower prices.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. And I think it's the employees that have gotten us through, so far through this downturn and kept us profitable and everything. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a limit to what people should be paid in any industry. You know what I mean? At some point, it isn't profitable for a company to be paying, a certain amount in wages, right? Any company in any industry would go under if they paid their employees too much, right? And so I agree with that. I think so far we've done very well, and I think the fear that the company has, and it's more than just how we've done in the past couple of years and how we're doing in the present right now, but we're trying to project what things are going to be like in the future. And although the company's been doing well, the industry has not. And so that eventually is going to affect even us. And so I think the fear, and it's happened to a lot of other companies, is that when that, I guess, industry downturn starts to affect our company, that we will be doing too little too late if we try to adjust when that wave hits us, rather than adjusting ahead of time to meet that. So I think that's the main concern, and that's the reason why we're trying to get the wages to something still high, still exceptional and good in the industry, but something realistic for where the industry's headed, so that we can be ready to meet that. And that's going to be better for everyone, not just for the company, but for all the employees long term, to make sure everyone is staying employed, that there aren't layoffs, that the wages don't go down even more drastically in the future, like lower them a little bit now and then raise them if we can or want to in the future, but not have to drastically lower them in the future just to keep the company in business. So that's kind of our mentality behind lowering it.
I hear what you're saying, and I want the company to do well. But I think with all these other companies, going bankrupt and just dying off, Baxter, this company, is getting a greater share of the market because of that. So we have, more of the market to sell to.
Yeah.
And so I think we're doing very well, and I don't think we should change much, honestly. And I don't think the employees would be very happy. They don't want changes, and that's why I'm a union representative, is because they want things to stay the same or get better, not to change, not to get any worse. That's why I've been chosen to do this. So if we go lower when we don't need to, like unnecessarily, the workers are not going to be happy. And I just want to point out as well that we have a 3-year freeze on wages that we started in 1981. I don't know if that would be a good thing to change that. I mean, we have a 1069 hourly wage, 3-year freeze started in 1981, would go to 1984. So I think we should keep with that. So, but what do you guys think?
You bring up interesting points. I'm looking. Just give me a second.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, I'm trying to time when I can speak when the baby's not crying, but
It's all good.
yeah, I think you make great points. I think we're making some good points too, and I think there's a compromise to be found somewhere in between what we're saying and what you're saying. And I do have an idea for that. So we're thinking of the possibility of lowering the hourly wage to something a little more standard in the industry, but leaving flexibility to compensate employees based on profitability. Because the reason we're trying to lower it, right, is in case the industry takes a downturn and we need the flexibility to not have the massive expense of paying wages that we can't afford, but we don't want to take people's, pay that they're going home with if it's not necessary, right? But again, then we still kind of want to be prepped and not have to make that decision too late. So one idea is lowering the hourly wage, but then based on profitability, like if we manage to maintain profitability or even keep growing, then instead of having such a high hourly wage, have it slightly lower and then do profit sharing. So if the company makes a certain amount over what our goals are for the year and what we need to stay, afloat and relevant in the industry and to maintain our current rate of growth, then anything beyond that the company makes is then redispersed out to employees. So it'd kind of be like maybe even getting your 10 hours or $10 an hour or whatever it is now, but getting 8 of it an hour up front and then the $2 an hour as kind of like a back pay at the end of the year, if that's, if the company is profitable enough to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So since the company is doing well and, there's less competition, do you think the company is going to do worse in the future? We've been in this recession for a couple of years now.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit bigger than that. It's not just competition going away. The reason the competition is going away is because the industry itself is in decline. So we're getting a bigger piece of the pie, but the pie is getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Okay.
So we're maintaining and growing a little bit, and what's fueling the growth is the closure of our competitors. But once enough of them go out of business and the top dogs are all that's left in the game and the industry keeps shrinking, that's when that wave is going to start affecting us. Right now it's all the small ones going out of business and they can't adapt in time, and we don't want that secondary wave to hit us when all the small guys are out and then it's down to these top competitors. And we are a unique company. We pay a lot more than average. We have a lot of benefits and notifications for layoffs and all these things that are amazing and is what has fueled our growth in the past. But it has the potential to be something that really puts us at a disadvantage to our competitors once that changes in the future.
But what makes you think the company's just going to do worse once all the smaller, companies are out of the way? Why is it going to keep getting worse? Why is the market why do you guys think it's just going to keep getting worse and worse?
Because that's just the trend. People don't want processed foods. They're worried about salt and fats. That's what some of the latest reports are coming out on that was in there. And so that's kind of what's leading people to buy less of the kind of products that we make. And so that's what's putting smaller businesses out of business. And then we may get their business, right? We get their customers, but then their customer pool is continually shrinking. And so we're kind of feeding off these dying companies' customer bases, but those customer bases are still getting smaller and smaller. And eventually there'll be no small companies to take the customers from anymore, and we'll just have our customer base and it'll just keep shrinking. And that's kind of the challenge that we're going to face in the future.
And I think it's important. It's not just the small companies that are going out, but it's a major competitor filed bankruptcy in the spring of 1983.
Yeah.
And their union agreed to a 40% wage cut. And so you have to ask why are they filing for bankruptcy when they were doing so well? I don't know if you can accredit that to being a problem in management so much as a problem in the industry. And I think there's a possibility of us adapting to consumers' wants and desires, but it's not something that's going to happen overnight. And we run the risk of making that transition to maybe adapting to the consumer's wants. We might take a wrong step and it could hurt us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the pay issue is really, it's not about reducing pay. And with the way we're planning on wording things in hopefully a new contract we can come to terms with, isn't even going to guarantee a decrease in pay. It's just kind of giving the company, the management, flexibility to make that decision if it's a necessity, so that we have the ability to kind of maneuver quickly rather than wait until the end of this and by then it's too little too late. So I think the best way is to restructure it by lowering hourly wage, but then putting in like a profit sharing type function or mechanic in the contract to kind of get that money back to the workers if it's still the case that we're going to keep growing. That way, hey, if we keep growing for the next 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, by kind of what's happening now, by picking up the customers of these other companies that are going out of business, then we can keep functioning like that and pay can stay the same or maybe even increase, right? But if we do need to cut things back to stay afloat, then we have the flexibility to do so. So I think that's the compromise we're hoping to come to today.
And we also want to talk about reconvening often on a semi or annual basis and look at our wages and look at how much of an expense it really is and how much it isn't. And we're willing to keep this conversation open, but like Andrew said, right now we just need some flexibility just in case this does take a downturn.
Mm-hmm. I hear what you're saying. I think you make some good points. So I don't know. This is hard. It's hard to come to an agreement on this. But So what was the wage you guys offered? What lower
So
pay did you offer?
875 is what we'd want to put it down to. That's still very high for the industry. That's taking the top 3 highest payers and averaging those 3 top wages. And it's actually even just a tad bit more than that. So 875 would be like, and that would basically be worst case scenario, right? Like the company's doing terrible, we're not making any money. You guys would at least be getting that wage. But if profits maintain at kind of where they're at right now, that's where the profit sharing would kind of come in at the end of the year. We could get those bonuses paid out so that your yearly compensation is still the same as it is now.
Wasn't that what you guys do already? Is have bonuses at the end of the year, even with the 1069 pay an hour?
I actually don't know that. I don't remember that from the reading.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, if there is, then I would say that this would just be supplementary to that. It'd be like a profit sharing bonus as opposed to a
year-end
whatever other bonuses are in place. Whatever things you need to do to get those bonuses, whether it's just continuing employment or if there's productivity things that you have to hit. This would just be about, these bonuses would be tied to like the industry and the company's profitability in it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'm just going to make 2 more points and then we'll go from there. So yeah, with the Me Too clause, I don't know if you would be able to do that. Like if we had, you said in the reading, it said you guys want to have an arbitrator come in and kind of help with the negotiation. I don't know if they'd rule in your favor on that, as far as lowering wages because of the Me Too clause. So I don't know if I agree with that. And I think the reason we're doing so well is because of the workers, and you don't want to make them unhappy. And I think lowering their wage like $2 or whatever it was, $2.69 lower, would make them very unhappy. So I don't know if that's a good strategy.
What would make them more unhappy, having a lower wage or not having the job at all? Because that's what we could potentially be talking about.
Mm-hmm. I understand that, but we're doing well,
or
and when the
keeping
time
high
comes,
wages
if we
now.
have to.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we're doing well now. We're making more than ever. Production's up. So why don't we just, when the time comes, if that time comes where we need to lower wages because the company's not doing well, why don't we just meet again at that time when it actually happens instead of just.
I think the reasoning is, again, the flexibility. We're like, we don't want that to be too little too late. And I think if that time does come, it would either be too little too late, or we would have to lower them very drastically. The wages would go down to well below the industry standard as we struggled to kind of recoup losses. So the idea now is like, they're not even low. This wage would already be an industry high, and on top of that, you would have profit sharing bonuses at the end of the year that would keep them probably pretty close to where they're at now, right? So it's really just about the flexibility and just hoping that the union and the employees can see that this isn't just lowering wages so that we can make money. It's lowering it so that people can keep their jobs long term.
Yeah, well, with the Me Too clause, that wouldn't. Yeah, but I'm saying, you're saying it may go lower than the industry average. Well, the Me Too clause wouldn't allow that. We would have to keep it at least.
Right. That's not, well, I mean, the Me Too clause wouldn't allow it, but we would either have to do that or go out of business, right? Like that's the fear if things turn down that low. But the Me Too clause will be completely void if there's no company that exists anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think the idea is like, we'd rather have this now where it's a relatively small reduction in pay, possibly no reduction in pay with the profit sharing, instead of when the Me Too clause expires or whatever, having a very drastic change that the families have to come to terms with. Because adjusting your standard of life, right, your living and your expenses a little bit rather than a whole lot, your pay dropping a little bit rather than a bunch, is going to be easier on the families and stuff. So.
Okay. So there's no way we're going to keep the status quo. Is that that's impossible for you guys to do?
I mean, I don't know. It's not impossible. I just think I think this is the compromise that would be.
The only thing that I can think of is I'm thinking, and I didn't talk to Anders about this, but we could talk about bringing wage up a little bit. Wage is going to drop. Like that's inevitable. Where it drops is I think a little more wiggle room, but I think something that we might want to consider is getting rid of the 52-week layoff notice, because if things do get worse, I think if you're suggesting that things are good now, which they are, but if they take an immediate downturn, we're going to have to do some adjusting quick. So if you're willing to take off that 52-week layoff notice, we might be more willing to raise our wage a little bit more from our original offer.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I don't know if we could do that. I think lowering it as much as you want to lower it is bad enough anyway, I think.
Well, he's saying not lower it that low. He's saying lower it less.
I'm saying what if we gave
875? You're saying
I understand what he's saying.
Okay.
So we've been talking this whole time, and you guys want to lower it to like 875, right? Like that's drastically lower than the wage that we have now. So you're saying go higher, but get rid of the 52-week notice, which I don't think we can get rid of that. So I think just a compromise in the middle would be just going a little higher than the 875 wage in the first place. Like that should be a compromise without having the 52-week, notice.
Yeah. I mean, we could do something like $9 an hour or even $9.25 an hour and then not do the profit sharing and just keep it hard and fast at the $9.25 or $9 or whatever we come to there. I think the idea behind the 875 was like, it's low, right? Like it's not the highest in the industry. It's not as high as the companies normally used to paying, but there was the mechanic to get pay back to employees if the company stays profitable. But if that's something that's harder to swallow, like if you think people don't have don't care to think that far out or whatever, then if it's easier to do a higher wage instead and just do $9 an hour, $9.25 an hour.
How about we do $9 an hour with the profit sharing?
I like that.
I think that's good. I think that's a good compromise.
Okay, so $9 an hour
with profit sharing.
A certain level of profit sharing, which is hard to say because I don't want to take the time to figure out how much percent each employee will get for each.
Yeah.
But
it would basically be like whatever we could to get their pay back up to what it is now without like the company not growing, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever the company makes, we put back into to keep growing and keep being competitive. And then as long as we're maintaining our current growth rate, if there's extra money left over, we just keep giving it back to employees until they make what they're making now.
Okay.
Which is likely to happen, right? Like the kind of downturn we're expecting might not be immediate. It might not be this year, even next year, but we just want the flexibility in case it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I agree with the $9 with profit sharing. I think that's a good compromise.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. So I'm reading the instructions. Nice work, guys. I'm reading the instructions. So I think we have to write up a contract.
Okay.
Justin, you and I were group leaders. Do you just want me to do it and I'll send it to you?
Yeah, that works. Are we supposed to read something else right now or no?
Maybe like a debrief right here.
Oh, is this like a what they actually did thing?
I'm kind of curious.
I know.
I have it right here. Let me think.
I don't know. I wasn't sure. I was kind of confused in what all the directions were. But we don't have to. I didn't know if we're supposed to.
I don't think so. I think it's. I mean, I'm going to just because I want to know what happened, but
Yeah.
I don't think we need to do it for anything. So, I think that's it. Justin, I'll send that out. I'll send that to you via email, and then
Okay.
if you need to, you can just turn it in.
Okay. Sounds good.
I think what I'm understanding is I'll just turn it in for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, that works.
Anything else?
That's
Nope.
all of it.
I don't know. I think this is the most fun I've ever had in one of these meetings. Not that you guys aren't fun, but that was actually enjoyable.
Yeah.
I know you guys wouldn't budge, so I had to.
Yeah, well, we
You
appreciate
guys are double teaming me, so.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, it's not really fair. It's 2-on-1.
Anyway,
Anyway,
worked
have a
out.
good night, gents.
All right,
Sounds
man.
good. You
Have a
too.
good one, guys.
Talk to you.
All right. Bye.